Okay, determine quadratic rules. So the first example, determine the quadratic rule for each of the following graphs, assuming each is a parabola. So some of my parabolas are a bit skew-if, but they are a parabola. So if you look at this one, the first one, it's actually going through 0, 0. So what we would be thinking, it's of the form just y equals ax squared, meaning it hasn't moved up or down or left or right. And with the A is purely just the dilation or how fat or skinny it is. So what we can do is we've been given this point here, so we can use that. We know when x equals 2, y equals 5. So you can put it into the basic formula. You go 5 equals a times 2 squared. So I've put it into there. And then you end up with 5 equals 4a, so 5 over 4 equals a. So there's the dilation. So if you have to write the formula for this one, it's 5 over 4x squared. So there's the one for that one. So if you look at this second one, sorry, this is a parabola, and it should have looked like so that you could see that this was the turning point. So if you look at that one, it's in the form of y equals ax squared, but it's moved up and down, so there's a plus c part to it. So we can use our 2 points here. Alright, so you could just look here and see that it's moved up, but if you sub that point in, so, if y is sorry, I'm going to give, oh my gosh. So 0, 3, equals a times 0 squared plus c. So you can see how you get 3 equals c, but we could just see that anyway. And then now let's use, knowing that now, let's use the other point, the negative 3 and 1. And so when y is 1, we've got x is negative 3, and we know now that c was 3, so we can put that into there. So we get 1 equals 9a plus 3. So we get 1 minus 3 equals 9a. So negative 2 divided by 9 equals a. So therefore we have the equation for this one. Y equals negative 2 on 9 x squared plus 3. So there's that equation there. Sometimes they don't want to have a fraction in their formula. So to see this, to get rid of that, you times it by 9. But if you times that by 9, you've got to times everything by 9. So sometimes you might see it written like 9a minus 2x squared plus 27, and or they might rearrange all these different ways. It's still the same answer. If they don't say anything, you would accept both, but maybe in a multi-choice, you might be looking for something for that like that, so just be careful. So up here, this one could have changed to 4y equals 5x squared, because I've times everything by 4 to get rid of the fraction part of it. So sometimes they could do that. I don't care what your answer is in a written one, but you might have to look out for it in a multiple choice. So if we look at this next equation, we might see that it's in a form of y equals ax, x minus 3. So you can see we're doing that because this is showing that one of the x-intercepts is 0, so we can see that there. Okay, and then we can see that the other x-intercept is positive 3, which is how we got that bit. So we can see that from just looking at it. So we could have written it like in the factorized form, and now we'll use the point negative 1 and 8 to find out the rest. So we've got 8 equals a times negative 1 minus 3. So we get 8 equals negative a times negative 4. So you get 8 equals 4a, because a negative by a negative. So 8 divided by 4 equals a, so 2 equals a. So we could therefore write this formula out as y equals 2x x minus 3, or we could expand it out and say y equals 2x squared minus 6x. Okay, so there's either answer would be correct. Okay, this last one is, we can't really see any, because they're saying that is the turning point. So you could know that it's in turning point form. So turning point form is when we had it like kx minus 1 squared plus 6. So I'm using this, the turning point. So we know that if the x is 1 there, so it becomes negative 1 and it's plus 6. That's how we learn. But we don't know the dilation factor, which is that k. So we use the other point they've given us to find out the k. So when x equals 0, y equals 8. So we can put that in. So we've got 8 equals k, 0 minus 1 squared plus 6. So you get 8 equals k plus 6. So 2 equals k. So now you've got it. So you could write it out. So y equals 2x minus 1 squared plus 6. You could expand that out and write it in expanded form, just depends, only if they're asking you to have it in polynomial form. So if you did expand that out, you should get something like y equals 2x squared minus 4x plus 8. Okay, so that's what it would be, but don't stress, only if they ask you or you're looking for the answer in a multi-choice. Okay, the last one, this one we can't see any turning points. We just pretty much have 3 points, and we're going to need the 3 points because we're going to have to use the polynomial form. So ax squared plus bx plus c. So the 3 unknowns are there. So we need to find out what a, b, and c is. And for that you need 3 equations. So you go about doing it. So I'm going to use -1 and 0. So that's an x and a y. So 0 equals a times -1 squared plus b times -1 plus c. So if you expand that out, you get a minus b plus c. Okay, so if I rearranged plus c. So now we can see c is obviously the y-intercept, and we can see that one, so we might use that. So we're going to say c equals 2. We found out that just by looking at the y-intercept. So I could write this equation as a minus b plus 2. And if I just rearrange it, I'm only going to do, bring the 2 over, or whichever way. I'm going to write it as a minus b equals -2, because there's one equation there. Alright, now I'm going to use the point 1 and 2 and pop it into our equation. So ax squared plus bx, and I'm going to write plus 2 because we know that's 2. So when I sub that in, I've got 2 equals a times 1 squared plus b times 1 plus 2. Okay, so just expand that, it's a plus b plus 2, and if I rearrange that, the -2 would cancel the other one out, so I've got a plus 2 equals 0. So because I have 2 equations now with 2 unknowns, I just solve them simultaneously. So solving simultaneously, we could just write them underneath each other. So when we add them, we lose the b's, don't we? So we get 2a equals negative 2. So a equals negative 2 divided by 2. So a equals negative 1. So we found out what a is. And then you can plug that into any formula with the b. So say over here, and I can say, well, negative 1 plus b equals 0. So b equals 1. Okay, so you've found all the things, so you could probably write the equation now. So y equals, a is negative 1, so negative x squared. B is a positive 1, so plus x, and plus 2. So there's the equation, the answer. And if you have a look, we should have got a to be negative because it's a negative graph.